on, you can do better than that.
All right. Okay, this meeting will come to order. Ask for members who are not present to make their way down here. Today we're going to hear SB 71, the Green Tech Tax Credit. We'll meet first as a subcommittee until we get a quorum. As soon as a quorum arrives, we will break to call the quorum. And Senator Padilla has joined us, and I'll ask him to come to the front. And I just want to say before we get started, I'm excited about starting off. This is my first hearing as budget chair, and I'm looking forward to a. Thank you. Looking forward to I know it will be a difficult, but a year we can make some tough choices and move our state forward in a rational, smart way and a bipartisan way. And today, I think, will be a good start to that. I'm very hopeful that this bill will be bipartisan. It's a jobs bill, and it has a lot of great potential for spurring our economy and spurring our jobs. And I may be a little biased as I'm a co-author of it, but without further ado, I'd like to introduce the author, Senator Alex Padilla, and ask you to present. Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Is your mic on?
Hello? Sound check, 1, 2, 3.
Is it on now?
Is it on now?
Yeah, now it's
okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I just want to take a moment and personally congratulate Chairman Blumenfield on the new assignment. He brings not just recent legislative experience, but a lot of congressional/federal experience to it, and I think that's going to bode our state very, very well. I couldn't think of a better way to welcome you than to present a bill for your consideration. Members, this is SB 71. That I introduced in response to the economic downturn that we're currently facing, the levels of unemployment that continue to challenge the state of California. In fact, a key element of both legislative leadership's response to the job creation and economic challenges that we have, as well as the governor's, is the confidence, the faith, the bet we're making in the future of a green technology and a green economy. As we did our homework, we realized that California is one of 3 states in the nation that does not provide a sales tax exemption or credit for the purchase of green manufacturing equipment. So we're talking about industries and specific businesses making the investments in the exact industries we see as our way out of the struggling economy, yet California serves currently as somewhat of a disincentive for those expansions and those job creations. We need to change that. We need to be incentivizing, not disincentivizing, this activity. So this bill before you, SB 71, would exempt manufacturers from paying sales and use taxes on the purchase of green manufacturing equipment. Specifically, or in addition to that, this bill would require the LEO to report to the legislature on the effectiveness of the program to ensure the accountability that we speak so often of, both here and in the context of the Economic Stimulus and Recovery Act out of Washington. The bill has a sunset provision for the year 2020 when we're taking a grander look at AB 32 implementation, our climate change proposals. The bill, as amended, continues to have the notification trigger when we reach the point of $100 million, but does not have an overall cap for the program. I wanted to make sure we were abundantly clear on that point. And I believe the bill also tackles the job of improving upon the definition of eligible projects, eligible purchases, and those that wouldn't be. I see I'm being asked to take a quick time out in the presentation.
Thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt, but if we could break for a moment and ask the clerk to call the roll.
Blumenfield.
Here.
Nielsen. Adams. Arambula. Bell. Berryhill. Brownlee. Buchanan. Caballero. Carter. Chesbro. Cook.
Here.
De la Torre.
Here.
Emerson. Evans. Fuhr. Fuller. Bertani.
Here.
Gilmore.
Here.
Harkey. Hoffman.
Here.
Jeffries. Jones. Nastandy. Ruskin. Silva.
Here.
Swanson.
Present.
Nielsen here. Sorry.
If I may continue, just want to point out, since this is the Budget Committee, that language in the bill requires that the net benefit back to the state when we consider corporate tax revenue and income tax revenues have to be equal or, if not greater, than the initial benefit up front to the participating company. Last but not least, this is not a new program. In fact, CATFA, that's the way we pronounce the acronym, has been around since about 1980 as a tool through the Treasurer's Office. But working with the Treasurer as well as the Governor, we feel that this language changes provided in the bill will make it more workable so that we continue the investments in job creation. Here in support of the bill and on behalf of the Treasurer's Office is Molly Rohima to speak and answer any questions, and I certainly ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Okay, if we have each person at the table identify themselves and then give their presentation. So, go ahead.
Rahima Mali with the State Treasurer's Office. For the reasons the Senator had talked about, we're in support of this bill.
Okay. Reed Addis on behalf of a coalition of green tech companies, including CalStart, Bloom Energy, Solyndra, NanoSolar, Moore Davidal, Symbol, and Cali Solar. Here in strong support, we appreciate the great work that the legislature and the governor have done to bring this policy before you today. We think it's one of the most important policies for the clean technology firms in the state of California. Here with strong support. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members, Roxanne Meller, representing the Mayor, City Council, City of San Jose. We join in offering our support on this legislation. It is absolutely critical, as we know, for the state to jumpstart the economy and to lead to recovery. We must do what we can to create manufacturing jobs in this state. Innovation and high-tech interests, both in development and research. California does have, we feel, an unprecedented opportunity to grow clean tech production, but it will not happen without strategic legislative action. We join in supporting this legislation and ask for your aye vote. Thank you.
I'm Mark Hill from Department of Finance. I'm speaking on behalf of the administration that supports this bill also. In fact, they support it even with an urgency clause. Thank you.
Any other folks testifying in favor? Okay, we're going to move to questions right now. I just wanted to get the testimony out of the way. I'm going to start with a question and then ask the Vice Chair for a question, and then we'll move to members. Question, although I know the answer to this, but I think it's an important question to ask, which is, how would the bill impact the revenue assumptions for 2010, 2011?
Don't have the exact number, but again, given the provision that's in the bill that the net benefit back to the state has to be greater, or if not equal to the initial incentive, we know it's going to be to the positive.
To the positive.
And these would be jobs that otherwise wouldn't be created. So it's not about giving a break or a giveaway here. This is for jobs that are created or jobs that are created as a result of the investment in their infrastructure and their equipment.
Department of Finance wanted to ask, add to that?
Our view is that the main impact of this will be to actually shift new projects into the state that otherwise wouldn't be here. As the author said, there are many other states that are very competitive on their tax treatment in this area. Almost all of our neighboring states offer a tax benefit that we do not. Therefore, any baseline amount of revenue that might have been attributable to this is probably going to diminish over the years because of that competitive situation absent this bill. So with this bill in place, our baseline revenue estimates did not assume any large increase in clean tech businesses. So any of the tax benefit that would be gotten by those industries that move here, start up here, grow here, is not something that's a loss to our current revenue estimates.
Thank you. And Mr. Nielsen.
No questions. I would just, Mr. Chairman, ask for consideration as the bill moves to the floor that maybe Assemblyman Blakely and myself would be added as co-authors. We'd like to make sure that leadership have no difficulties with that, and if that be the case and we can conveniently do it, we'd request that co-authorship added on the floor.
Mr. Swanson, then Ms. Harkey.
Senator, I commend you on the bill. I wanted to ask you a question, and perhaps the representatives of clean tech industry. Since this is part of a partnership, the incentives that are developed here, there's some growing concerns that in the solar industry, companies dealing with wind and biomass, the diversity of the workforce. Is that question being addressed since this is all part of a public-private partnership as this matter goes forward? That is becoming more and more a concern. So if we could, I appreciate any response to how the industry is sensitive to that. And Senator,
happy to respond. Actually, happy you asked that question. The way I've seen it, it's sort of a two-step process here, because when it comes to our renewable efforts as a whole, or clean technology programs as a whole, what we've seen a lot happening in California through the programs, incentives, and subsidies that we have in place, a whole lot of installation work, right? We're installing the wind turbines, we're installing the solar panels on rooftops, we're installing a whole lot of stuff. And there's some workforce preparedness, training, and diversity questions to be asked there. The even better paying jobs should be in the manufacturing arena. But what we've seen, despite the tremendous investment and aggressive policies and goals that California has established, we continue to import all that from other countries because it's manufactured abroad. If not out of state, certainly out of the country, brought into California, and then we're dealing with the install work and maintenance work. The goal of this bill is to get that manufacturing activity here. I'd rather put a little bit more resources towards the industry if we can secure those better paying manufacturing jobs right here in California and be in a position to ask those very questions. What's the training, the readiness, and the diversity of that workforce as well? So let's get those manufacturing jobs here and have these conversations hand in hand. But I wanted to distinguish the install work, as good of a job as that is, but the even better manufacturing piece is a little bit different.
Okay, and I would ask the representative of the industry, are they sensitive to, is the industry growing sensitive to that question in a state like California, the need to do the outreach and the training for a more diverse workforce?
Certainly, and I think there's two ways to answer that question. One is that these companies that would stay here and develop manufacturing companies are California-based companies, are the companies in our community and actually represent the diversity of our communities. So to the issue of what this policy does, it actually allows them to stay here in those communities and have manufacturing jobs available to them. The other point I'd make on the question of diversity relates to job training. And the state has spent a lot of money and has been a leader in making sure there's workforce training, and we believe we currently partner and would continue to partner with those organizations to bring in members of our community who are trained into the workforce.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next will be Ms. Harkey, followed by Ms. Brownlee, and then Ms. Fuller.
Yes, question of the author. How is it going to be calculated, the net benefit greater than or equal to the incentive? How is that calculation going to take place?
That would be a mechanism done through the Treasurer's Office as is done currently. I'll let them respond.
Can you answer me that question as to how that calculation is going to be, how that's going to take place on something that's new? How will you know before granting the credit that it's actually going to produce more revenue than it's?
Part of this will be defined in the regulations process of how it would be determined in identifying the profit to the state that is greater than what we're giving away. But the authority would be looking at the jobs that it would produce and the income taxes that would result out of that. That would
be based on what projections?
Based on the the applicant and how many jobs that they think that will result out of their project. So it really depends on the applicant and what they want to do in the project and how big of a scope it is and their projections.
Will they have any comparables to bring that will be explored to ensure that we're actually going to create jobs? The reason I'm asking this is I'm all for creating jobs in the state, but we can't seem to get any relief from CARB regulation now for the industries that are here. And I would think that in the governor's job creation, he'd at least want to keep what we've got here in the state before we go offering incentives to bring newbies into the state that may be just based on projection.
This bill wouldn't just be to try to attract new companies from coming into California, but to support California existing companies seeking to grow, seeking to expand. And those that are at the point of making the decision, do I expand here in the state where I'd rather be, versus does it just make more business sense to go out of state? But to your first question, for every application for the credit or the incentive, the specific purchase of the manufacturing equipment has to be described along with the direct explanation of how it improves production and capacity. And when you sort of calculate out the increase in production and capacity, there's a job figure associated with that. There could be a sales figure with additional inventory associated with that, and that's how they run the numbers for the net benefit back to the state.
Okay, thank you, Senator. Are there any particular industries that are committed at this point?
That are committed at this point?
Right.
Not yet. That's part of what we wanted this bill to do. From the Treasurer's experience in talking generally to companies and business leaders, they felt these language changes would make it clearer, strengthen the program that's already in existence. So this is a program that's already in place, powers the Treasurer's office already has. This is a little bit clearer, strong, so they can go and leverage this with the proposals that they may be able to uncover.
Okay. Do you know if these did I understand this correctly? These are going to be public-private partnerships, or is this just private?
This is just private. These are companies
okay,
seeking
good.
to expand,
I just wanted
or
to
new
be
companies
sure
seeking to invest.
of that. And do you know why the language, the advanced transportation technology language, was added?
Added? That's been in the program since its inception.
It says here that there's been language added to...
It's in the Republican analysis?
No, this is yours.
I think I can. Reed Addis, I believe the specific change you're referring to, if I understand the reference you're making, is just making clear that battery technologies are clearly and explicitly defined as one of those advanced technologies.
Okay. I think that's the end of my questions. I just really wish that we could grant this sort of exception to the existing industries that are here, that are begging us every day to please allow them to stay.
Well,
and I understand that there are some in green tech and green manufacturing, but we have a lot that aren't green or aren't considered green, whatever green is. I told them quite honestly they should just put on green clothes and do a billboard and say we're green, and see what happens. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Brownlee, followed by Ms. Fuller.
Thank you, Senator. I just had one really quick question, and just wanted to better understand the $100 million trigger. So the legislature gets notified when we hit that threshold?
Correct.
And does anything else happen, or is there any action that needs to take place at that point in time?
It's just the notification that the benefits awarded through the program have reached that level. If it comes in 3 months, that's a good indicator. If it doesn't happen for 5 years, it's just a different indicator. But coupled with that is a sunset in the year 2020 to trigger the review of the program in its entirety.
Okay. And in terms of green products, solar, wind, biomass, they're the obvious ones. Are there other areas that you think are going to bring industry to California?
Well, I'll be biased here and call out a company in my own district where we had the press conference unveiling this bill. with the governor just over a month ago, a company called Qualion that's investing in battery technology. For those of us who have done our homework on renewable energy, we know that when the sun is shining, solar is great. But what happens when it's not? When the wind is blowing, wind is great. But what happens when it's not? If we're able to store in some way, shape, or form the energy produced and be able to dispatch it at other times, it really goes a long way to improving the overall effectiveness of our energy grid. And so energy storage, battery technology, others are some of those other examples.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Fuller, followed by Mr. Adams.
I just wanted a clarification of what the specified hydroelectric projects are that are covered.
Have more information on that.
According to the analysis, it just says
Which page are you on?
Keep my own list.
on the first page of the caucus analysis, it says a list of
I think those would point to the definition of allowable hydroelectric in the state. As you know, we allow for small hydro to be counted in our renewable programs, but not large hydro.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Adams, followed by Mr. Bell.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Padilla, I think the bill is a good bill, worthy of support, and I would ask that, like others here, given an opportunity, I'd like to be added as a co-author to the bill.
Great.
And Mr. Bell?
There's I'd say hundreds and millions and perhaps billions of dollars in venture capital investment in creating firms that would probably qualify in some way under this measure. And this is going on right now, I know in my area in Santa Clara County. I strongly urge this as a way to lead California out of its economic doldrums. We need these kind of incentives to make sure these companies, once they do their R&D, stay in California in terms of manufacturing. And these companies are now being created right now. The question is, where are they going to do their manufacturing? Are they going to stay in California? Will we provide them with incentive? This bill does that. And I'd also like to point out that there's no place in California that manufactures high-speed rail. This would allow possibly a company to be created that would be building the high-speed rail or assembling the high-speed rail vehicles in California, creating jobs for our communities here. So I urge support of this bill.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions, comments from members of the committee? I'm sorry. Ms. Harkey, you had a follow-up?
Based on Mr. Bell's comments, is this bill dedicated towards high-speed rail?
It's not dedicated to high-speed rail.
Or any parts of it?
I guess depending on the technology the high-speed rail project can use, definitely.
That's where I was going when I asked my first question.
Our rail systems are obviously one of the areas that have shown to be fuel inefficient or sources of pollution. So the cleaner the rail, the technology, there could absolutely be a nexus here.
Just to respond, last week we had a high-speed rail meeting in San Jose where we actually discussed incentives to have clean technology as part of the high-speed rail, and this will be very important to make that project affordable, and we think it's a good idea.
Mr. Romula.
Senator Padilla, would passage of this bill today be a nice birthday present for you? I understand you're turning, it's your birthday, so I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you.
Great. If there are no other questions or comments from members, I'd ask for if there's any. Senator, do you have?
Just in closing.
Okay, go ahead.
If I may.
Please.
Oh, no, go ahead. You need to check that box. Go ahead.
Blumenfield.
Oh, we're not ready to call the roll yet.
Okay.
Oh. Three last things, but it would be a great way to celebrate. You're absolutely right. Just want to acknowledge Assembly Members Blakesley, Nielsen, and Adams, if possible, to come on as co-authors. It's not just my bill. Colleagues, Senator Alquist and Senator Strickland are also joint authors on this bill. Senator Alquist representing the same area as Assemblymember Bell and having worked on this for a couple of years. So just want to thank you for the quick hearing today and your consideration and ask for your support.
It's my understanding we're going to deal with co-authors on the floor so that that issue hopefully will come up there. But I want to call for members of the public who are here in support and then we'll ask for members in opposition. Are there any members of the public here in support of this bill? Seeing none. Any members of the public in opposition or with neutral comments? No? Okay, before I ask for the do pass recommendation, just wanted to say a couple of quick things. Again, this is a great bill to start out my tenure on this as chair of this committee, and because it's one of those bills that shows, we always talk about we need to bring jobs to California, and this is one that really does it, and it does it in a way that doesn't pit the environment versus the economy. It's actually really good for the environment and the economy, and it's a model for the way I think we should be promoting jobs and not pitting those two important values together. It's a way to move our economy forward as well as our AB 32 goals. Mr. Nielsen, you had a final comment as well, and then I'll call the roll.
It is a good bill. I would just sort of paraphrase an old saying, if it's good for the green, it's good for the gander. There's a lot of other business in California that I would entreat members of the legislature to be sensitive to for incentives of this nature. And we Republicans will certainly be arguing about that, as well as the bigger impediment, and that's the disincentives as the process continues on other bills.
I need a do pass recommendation. Is anybody? So moved. Second? Second by Mr. Adams. Okay, clerk, please call the roll.
Blumenfield.
Aye.
Blumenfield, aye. Nielsen.
Aye.
Nielsen, aye. Adams.
Aye.
Adams, aye. Arambula. Arambula, aye. Bell. Bell, aye. Berryhill. Brownlee. Brownlee, aye. Buchanan. Caballero. Caballero, aye. Carter. Chesbrough. Cook.
Aye.
Cook, aye. De la Torre. Emerson. Emerson, aye. Evans. Fuhr. Fuhr, aye. Fuller. Bertani. Gilmore.
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Harkey. Huffman. Jeffries. Jones. Jones, aye. Nestandy. Ruskin. Silva. Swanson.
Swanson, aye.
Swanson, aye.
Okay, we'll leave the roll open for a few minutes.
Ms. Harkey was the aye?
Harkey. How many do we need to pass? Oh, Bill has 14 ayes. The bill is passed. Thank you.